Hello everyone, today I'm going to be painting an adorable little pair of mallard ducks and swatching my mixtures on the side, so that will hopefully help you out a little bit. And I'm going to be doing my best to explain what color mixes I'm using. But don't worry if you have any questions, just leave them down below in the comments and I'll try my best to get to them. So moving on to the male mallards, beautiful turquoise neck. You can use a mixture of Prussian blue and Hooker's green, or you can also use olive green to create that gorgeous turquoise tone. And if you don't have Prussian blue, you can use phthalo blue green shade as well. You can see that I'm slowly starting to add in more green here, just to create those really dark shadowed feathers, I suppose. And then towards the end, you'll see me start to add in more neutral tint to the mixture, creating just an incredibly pigmented area. So it looks like his head is essentially just shining in the light. And here you can see I am blending out the dark shadowed areas of his neck with a damp brush and moving along to his brown chest, which is really just like a mixture of sepia and yellow ochre. But any warm-ish brown would do perfectly fine. Throughout this video, you may see me paint the beak a couple of times and then lift up the color. I wanted to keep it in just so it wasn't so confusing if the tones of the beak appeared slightly different all of a sudden. So yeah. So while his neck was still damp, I used just mainly sepia for this part, where I just charged in some color and created that shadow. And then moving to the body, I used again like neutral tint and sepia with a pretty wet brush, and then I added even more water to give it that looser look and dot in more color that way. There's a good bit of water on my paper at this point, and so I'm just adding in some more neutral tint and creating those gorgeous blooms that we all love to see. And I'm adding some feather detail here with a more dry brush. For this stunning purpley blue mixture of the back feathers, I used ultramarine blue and carbazole violet. Now, if you don't have a violet or a purple, you could just mix a red and a blue. Probably ultramarine blue would work well. And I'm so sorry I didn't swatch that color there for you on the side, but I also moved on to the beak, adding a bit of yellow ochre, and it looks like perhaps a little bit of green to it. I wanted to keep it pretty neutral and muted looking. I'm charging in a warm brown here, like raw umber or sepia with yellow ochre, and also just adding some detail on the chest part that is now dry. I started adding in a bit of Indian yellow with the yellow ochre beak mixture here while it was dry. And now I'm just repurposing these same browns that we've mixed for the eye and continuing on with some detail in the feathers. Taking a very, very dark Jane's Gray mixture here to add even more depth to these areas. Now for the feet, I mixed up some Indian yellow with cool toned green, or you could also use blue to neutralize it, since this yellow, quote unquote, is more orange, and so, you know, a blue or a cool green would cancel it out and not make it quite so bright. I'm just going to chat a little bit for this portion because the painting is kind of self-explanatory in this little section here, and I wanted to mention that I have not released a tutorial like this in years, and I wanted to start doing it again for a few reasons. I finally have the space to have my filming set up and not have to set it up and tear it down every time, making me way more motivated to do these tutorials. Not only that, reason number 2 is that Instagram just isn't the same as it used to be, and I still really, really love YouTube, and so I wanted to focus more of my time here helping others out creating watercolor, because I think just having a creative hobby in your life can do so much good for you. And I know so many people struggle with watercolor. Heck, I did for so many years, and I think that my tutorials from 5 years ago are just so bad compared to how I am today with watercolor. Okay, so moving on to the female Mallard here. She's just primarily made up of some sepia, and then I did eventually add in some yellow ochre, believe it or not, to her body, and also I believe I used like a tad bit of Indian yellow. Now I'm doing the same thing that I did with the male's body, is just using a good amount of water on the brush to blend out those hard edges in the body so that we can charge in some color and create those blooms. I'm using what's called the wet on damp technique there for her head, just creating those soft shadows. If the paper has dried a little bit here, you can simply just add some water on a clean brush and glaze over the top there to charge in these colors. And again, I'm using that purpley violet mixture, which was ultramarine and carbazole violet. Though her feathers aren't quite as bright as the male's, so I did add in some neutral tint to that actually. So I'm primarily just using Jane's Gray, which is similar to neutral tint, for her beak as well as the soft feathers on her body. And by the way, I will have all of the supplies that I used down in the description if you want to know the specific brands of the paints, because I know that the pigments can be slightly different from brand to brand. So reason number 3 as to why I wanted to start making YouTube tutorials again is because I just have a completely different mindset now, and I don't feel like I need to create these absolute masterpiece, intricately detailed tutorials anymore. They would take me so long to paint, so long to edit. It was just very frustrating at times, and I had a lot of difficulty in explaining the steps that I was doing. And I was also so new to watercolor still. I had only been painting for around 2 years at that point, so now my painting has come a long way. I can paint so much faster, I can explain better, my color mixing is much better, so I thought that it was just a perfect time to come back and share my knowledge with you guys, because I do think that my style is a little different from other people, and sure, I'll be doing more detailed watercolors in the future, I'm sure. This editing process is going a lot smoother than my old videos did, so you know, you might see more intermediate style tutorials. And when I want to get those really thin details on the beak, I just make sure that my brush is mostly dry and I'm using the very tip of my brush. And I actually saw on a video recently that if your brush is bent, you can put your brushes in boiling water and they'll kind of like straighten out the tip again. So I don't know if that's only okay for synthetic versus non-synthetic fur brushes, but yeah, I just wanted to throw that tip out there. I'm sorry, I do not remember the creator who mentioned this, but I thought that it was a really good tip to know. The paper is completely dry here while I'm just adding the shadowy parts on her bottom and her feathers, and as you can see, it's just been sepia mixtures, neutral tint, and a little bit of yellow ochre. I'm freehanding the feathers here and curving them upwards a little bit so that she has that three-dimensional look. You don't have to be very particular with the color of the little hole in the beak. As long as it's dark, you should be fine. But as you can see, I'm lifting up the color on her eye once again, but I'm keeping it in this video so that it's not confusing, because I did finish the male duck's eye. The wash that I'm doing here looks to maybe have a little bit of burnt sienna in it too, so if you want a little bit more orange rather than just using sepia and yellow ochre, I highly recommend burnt sienna. I love that color so much. I use it in so many of my paintings that I sell on my Etsy. It's just a huge part of my style. And then for the male, I'm doing a bit more neutral tint or Jane's Gray for his body. And then these final details here are just Jane's gray mixed with a little bit of violet. Just going over these details that we did earlier to give her feathers a bit more depth. Now I'm adding those final shadowy details to their cute feet, and you can replicate this with the Indian yellow that we used earlier with Jane's gray. I'm actually taking a 15-0 fine tip liner by Creative Mark here for the eye details, and then just some very detailed bits on their feet. And I am so sorry, that was my dog scratching on the carpet, if you heard that. I wanted to also give the male mallard's head even more depth and shininess to it, so I went in with a very, very dark mixture of Jane's gray and Prussian blue. And again, just adding some more fine details to really make the painting pop. And that is the finished tutorial. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. I cannot wait to show more tutorials with you guys. And don't forget, if you have any questions, leave them down below. And I have all of the products that I used, or most, in my description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.